Welcome to Good Horses, the podcast of the American Quarter Horse Association, where we talk about good horses. My name is Jim Jennings, and today we're going to launch a new series on good horses that we call Legends Remembered. And it's the word legends that we're going to concentrate on. We're going to talk about some of the legendary horses in our breed, most of which have been inducted into the American Quarter Horse Hall of Fame. Going into the Hall of Fame is the highest honor that can be achieved in our industry. And I want to remind everyone right now that any AQHA member can nominate a horse or person to the Hall of Fame. Go to AQHA.com/nominate for information on how to nominate either a horse or a person. But in Legends Remembered, we're going to talk about the legacy of the great horses and about the accomplishments that earned them a place in the Hall of Fame. We're going to tell you about their breeding, and we're going to talk about their owners and breeders. And you're going to hear what those horses meant to their owners and breeders. Today, our subject is Frenchmans Guy, that great sire of barrel racing and rope horses. Frenchmans Guy went into the Hall of Fame in 2024. In today's show, AQHA Chief Foundation Officer Chris Sitz talked with Frenchmans Guy's owners, Bill and Debbie Myers, at their ranch home near St. Ange, South Dakota. Sit back and listen. I think you will enjoy it.
My name is Bill Myers, and we're the owner of Frenchmans Guy.
And I'm Debbie Myers, and I'm also the owner of Frenchmans Guy.
So we had owned several of his brothers and sisters before him and really liked them a lot. And so that's why we decided to finally, buy him, is because he was just a continuation of them bloodlines that we had already had and rode and liked. So that was what led us to buy him, was just he was from that same mare. They'd bred that mare to some different stallions, and we didn't matter what stud they had bred her to. We liked them colts so much that we just went back and continued to buy everyone we could out of that mare.
Good. And then the day you bought him, what'd you think of him?
Really liked him. They delivered him to our place in Hermosa, and we bought him sight unseen. And when they unloaded him from the trailer, we was very, very happy with what he looked like. He was a real good looking colt, and was the type of horse that we wanted him to be. Like I said, we had bought his pedigree was what caused us to buy him, but we had a pretty good idea that he'd look real good, and he did.
Yeah, tell us about that pedigree.
So he's by Son Frost, the cow and stallion, the Doc Jack Frost son, which we liked a lot because we liked the Doc bar, the lightning bar part of Son Frost, and he'd been he'd had some colts that had done well for no more colts than he had, especially, and so we thought that would be a good cross on his mother, Frenchman's Lady, which was a daughter of Laughing Boy, and which Laughing Boy was a son of Lightning Bar, and so that made Frenchman's Guy, line bred Lightning Bar horse, and we really liked that lineage.
So it's kind of a private question, but Dad mentioned yesterday you only gave $2,500 for him. What year was that?
He was born in 1987, and that's the year we purchased him.
So $2,500 investment turned out all right.
Yeah, that was pretty good investment. Yeah, he's turned out all right.
So tell us about his personality. How did you see that evolve?
Well, he was, as a baby, he was a little bit fractious, not real super gentle, but he was just a real super athletic colt, and we didn't handle him too much. We after he got hurt, especially, we kind of turned him out and didn't handle him much, but learned more about his personality really after we got him back into break. And then he was, extremely smart, very easy to handle. He had a lot of feel, and he was a phenomenal moving horse. I mean, that's one of the things that we've tried to be real critical of in our program, is the movement of our horses, because, we feel like that's what makes them be successful. If a horse can't move good, they can't run, they can't stop and turn, they can't do athletic things. So he was crazy athletic, crazy amazing, and had lots of feel. Like when you could stop him and turn him around, and it was unbelievable for a young horse to respond like he did.
So you mentioned accidents, so let's talk about that a little bit. What happened and how did that impact his career?
when he was between a baby and a yearling, we had him in stall where we lived in Formosa, and our oldest son was cleaning his stall, and he was, like I said, he's sometimes a little spooky, and when he was in there cleaning his stall, he got spooked a little bit and was going to jump over his wheelbarrow. So out of reaction, he just kind of he had a metal fork. It was a straw stall, and he raised his fork to just block him, keep him from jumping over the wheelbarrow. And by fate or whatever reason, he poked him in the eye, the pitchfork, and we had to have his eye taken out. So that was what happened on the accident.
So how did that impact him? It happened at a very young age. So
Yeah.
I assume he adapted quickly.
Yeah, we as a yearling, we took and turned him out at a friend of ours' place, and he's got a ranch south of Rapid City there, Don and Jerry Fish, and we didn't get him back in till he was coming 3. So he kind of developed his own way of taking care of himself by himself out in the pasture, and apparently adapted to not having but one eye real well, because he come back and he was just like pretty much a normal horse as far as the way he moved and the way he did things and the way he responded to things, and he adapted real well to that, not having that eye. So it was in the spring of that year that we were so disheartened over him losing his eye that we thought, if we could get our money back and just get out from underneath him, we'd be happy with that, because we didn't, at that time, a yearling with one eye, it was not something that you really wanted, probably. And so with a guy that we knew had called and asked about possibly coming and looking at him and maybe possibly buying him. So he came and looked at him, and he didn't look very good. He was a yearling, and he was, not starved by any means, but he wasn't big, bloomy, fat yearling, and he had one eye, and he didn't buy him. He asked us what we wanted for him. We told him $2,500, and he says, "Well, you didn't really say too much. He just left." And so anyway, we find out years later that he thought that we'd heard a comment that he'd made about not buying him. And he thought that we were, crazy for asking that kind of money for that yearling. And that was a blessing also, that he didn't buy him from us, and we was able to keep him, and he turned into the kind of horse he did, because if we would have sold him, naturally we wouldn't have had Frenchmans Guy. And so it was a cool story now that we look back on it, and how that happened, and I guess why it happened. Again, we were supposed to have him.
Suppose he's kicking himself now.
Might be.
So Deb, you rode him primarily in the barrels,
Right.
a pretty consistent amount of time. How did that injury impact him? What was he like?
Well, Bill trained him on the barrels, and he ran him in a couple fraternities, local fraternities up here. And it was his right eye, so going to the first barrel was, what you had to, be aware of. And I think we probably hauled him for 2.5, 3 years. Started out, just thought I'd just give it a try and see what he was like, and Bill had trained him and took him to a couple of fraternities, and then we had just not done really anything with them other than breed some mares. And I thought, maybe I'll try him. So I got him in the inn and kind of legged him up in the winter. I remember leading him around in the snow, but, ponying him. And so I took him to a few jackpots, and then there's a big thing back then called the Spring Fling in Newcastle, Wyoming. So I thought, I'll go over there and see how he clocks, and if he does decent, I might haul him to some rodeos. So I went over there, and I remember unloading, and there was Susie Sepla, Christy Peterson, I think there was like Marlene Edelman, Becky Carson, and I just thought, oh my God, Lord, just don't let me fall off, because I thought all these girls here, and I hadn't run for a long time. So anyway, I think he ended up third to Bozo, and I think Susie was leading, I think, the finals, the WPRA then, and it was just so easy for him. I mean, he just went out there, it was so easy for him. So I thought, okay, I'll go ahead and haul him. So I hauled him. And as far as his not having that right eye going to the first, I always tried to kind of cock his head a little bit going into the arena so he could kind of see where that first barrel was. But, his deal was like I just want to get it over with and get on where I can see, because he would take an awesome first barrel. I have a video of him, and it's just, he was good. But you don't want to sit and say whoa until you're at the barrel, because if I made the mistake the first time I run him and I sat down a little too soon and we just crashed it chest on, and I felt so bad because it was my fault, So I was always aware of that. But other than that, the only thing I need to worry about is when I take him in and out of stalls, and if people come up to ride beside me, I'd always ask him to ride over on the side he could see him, because he was real uncomfortable if there was somebody, riding beside him. You wouldn't even know, most people didn't even know he didn't have an eye. I'd braid his foretop over, because I didn't want it to get in his one eye that he could see out of, and a lot of people didn't even know he didn't have a right eye. Yeah, so he was so fun to haul, because he loved to travel. You could haul him with mares. He behaved himself very well, and he was just so sensitive. Like, I didn't ever have to get after him. I could just, my voice was all I needed to correct him if he, seen a mare or something, started getting excited, just talk to him and he'd quit. So he was fun to haul, and he liked to go. He really liked to go. First time I quit hauling him, I remember he was out here in the pen, and I was loading horses up front out here, and he just got mad. And you could always kind of read him by the way he swung his head around. And he got mad. He was kicking up, going backwards, and he wanted to go. So he liked to travel. He was a lot of fun to haul.
So we talked a little bit this morning about how your family was in the throes of getting started as, trying to build a home business, and you had to haul to pay the bills. It wasn't just like Deb's out there hauling to have a good time and hang out with the girls.
I had to make money. I could not make money.
Yeah. So talk about that balance that you guys had to keep in your lives and what Bill was doing at the time. And
Bill was home working. He was fixing fence, and we didn't have any water to the barn. We only had this one old barn, and he was just trying to get it fixed up well enough, because our livelihood was training horses. So he couldn't take any horses in till he got the place fixed up better. So he would keep the two oldest, which was Billy and Brandon, and they were just little guys. And then the very youngest, I would take along when he was really young, but he got a little older. My sister would watch him a lot. But so he would stay home, and I would take off. That was still when I was running his sister, though, more, when we did that. But when I was running Guy, it was the same thing. We were still trying to build the place up. We had just moved here in 92, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we just had to fix everything up. So I'd leave like on a Friday night maybe and go to rodeo that night. And when I go to rodeo Saturday, and I go to a Saturday night and Sunday, and then come back home. That was when I run a sister, Casey. But when I run him, we were just laughing about that this morning. We were trying to figure out how long I had hauled him. And our vet would just shake his head. He'd say, you can't keep hauling him. He's got to stay in the breeding shed. He's worth too much money, and we thought we wanted to promote him as good as we could, in this area. And so I would get up. This was back before we were collecting them, and that was when we were still live covering them. And I would get up in the morning, and Bill and I would go out and breed a mare, and then I'd load him up and go to rodeo. I'd come back home that night, and we'd breed another mare, and then I'd get up in the morning, and we'd go out and breed a mare, and I'd go to another rodeo. So I'd have to breed a mare in the morning before I left, and a mare when I come back at night. And it got to be too much, because then he got really popular in the breeding shed, and I finally decided, you know what, we got to kind of stop the rodeo and attend to business. So, yeah.
So he had such longevity. Lived till he was 34.
That whole family does.
Some milestones in his life, and then what he was like towards the end as you retired him.
Well, he had a really long career because he lived so long. So that was really neat. On our part, we got to have him be part of our life for a long time. And, so many milestones, from starting him out when they first started. Started getting popular about the same time they allowed ship semen in the AQHA. So that opened a lot of doors for us that we wouldn't have had if they hadn't done that. So, as time went on, Bozo was winning out there, and Debbie'd already rode him quite a bit and won on him around here locally. He become a nationally popular. And so he got mares from all over the nation, and a lot of good mares because of that. So that was a big milestone as far as his kickoff in his breeding career. was the ship seaman deal. So, he went to where, we think we started him out when Deb was hauling him, I think that one year we bred him like 50 mares when she was hauling him, including our own, and the outside mares. After that, and the ship seaman become available, he would breed up to 170 mares a year. So, and his stud fee was really a pretty interesting in the way it worked. We think we started him when he was about 3 or 4. I think we only charged like $300 to breed to him, which we didn't breed very many mares at all, 7 mares or something like that. And then by the end of his career, he was at 6,000, and he stayed at 6,000 for a lot of years. So the financial part of what that horse did to us was astronomical. I mean, he allowed for us to, make a lot of money and invest it and buy better. We beefed our broodmare band up big time because of the money that he generated, and which that's what paid for all our stuff was horses, and he was the main player. He created a lot of financial gain for us that we were very thankful for, of course. And that was, as time went, he as he went on, and it's already documented all the stats on the horse, but if you look from year to year, all the things that his colts won and established in different places they won, and arena records they made, and championships they won, you can't even, we don't even know how many there are now, and they're still winning today. A horse won second one of his daughters won second at Reno the other day. She won St. Paul, Oregon. She placed in a round at Calgary there. And one of his the Gildens that Tiani Schuster's got right now won the first day at Calgary the other day. And so they just continue on even after he's gone, winning. And that's, he created a following of people throughout his career that was very widespread, from the professionals down to the kids, and they were real user-friendly horses. And so people, they were pretty, and there was a lot of demand for his colts because he had such a wide variety of people that could ride them, and they'd excel at whatever level kind of the rider was able to do, there's just, there's almost, I can't mention all the things that, that milestones that horse achieved throughout his life. It was hard to imagine how much, they did, and things they did through their, his colts did.
So let's talk about that, the versatility, because of course, all of us know Guy as a barrel horse, but his progeny have gone on to be many other events. And talk about his athleticism and sort of where you felt where he's had success. What individuals?
Well, the horse himself, he had such quick speed. I mean, he could be running full blast real fast. I mean, some of the videos of him, you could see it when Debbie run him. I mean, he from 0 to, and so there's been several great bulldogging horses out of him, which you got to have that as a top quality bulldogging horse. And there's been quite a few of them roped on, between the calf rope and the team roping and all that stuff. That's just that he was, early in his career, he got popular as a barrel horse sire. So a lot of them didn't go towards them other events because so many of them went towards the barrel racing. But any rodeo event, pole bending, barrel racing, calf roping, breakaway roping, they was easy to step over into them events because they had that quick speed. They were good-minded, so they scored good, and they were responsive. People could ride them and put them where they wanted them. And they were just they were user-friendly horses to go, in any event. They excelled in. And I mean, I had a lot of good head horses myself that I loved that I rode out of him, and there's been,
and still
our son Billy, he had a gray horse when he was in high school that he roped calves and heeled on, and had him after he got out through school and in college, and even went on to the amateur and pro rodeos on him, and he was out of a Hancock bred mare. Paul Tierney raised him. We bought him as a yearling from Paul.
And he's still alive.
And he's still alive.
We still have him.
But he's a very versatile horse. And so they could step over into any event very easily, and especially
Jordan run 19-second patterns in the poles a lot on them.
yeah, Jordan, she won a lot on his colts early. So yeah, they was really versatile horses.
So not many people get to live with famous studs.
No.
And you didn't just live with them. He lived like right
next
to your
door.
bedroom, right?
Yeah, right beside the deck.
Yeah. So what was it like to live with a horse like that?
It's pretty neat. Debbie, she gave him little deals of cake and treats, and we got a deck out here that's right by his pen, and he'd come over there in the evenings, and she'd always give him treats, and he was a character. I mean, he was a smart horse, and he
was a character.
He was a really cool horse. I mean, you go in there to catch him and he'd stall, and especially breeding days, he'd know you were going to go get him collected, and he'd bow up, and he'd act like he was going to maybe be aggressive, but he wouldn't harm a flea. But he had a personality that he would show his personality quite a bit, and like Debbie said, you could talk to him. If he was getting a little out of line or something, you could just say, hey, straighten up, and didn't take much to get him to understand what you were talking about, because just his intelligence level was so high.
He had a sense of humor too. He did.
Yeah.
Yeah. We used to have him like out you've seen his pen, and people were always coming to look at him. We had a couple of gals come and look at him when I took him out there, and he knew when I took somebody out to his pen, he had to show off. So he did. He'd just show off, run around, and maybe rear up in there and show off. And one day, I took a couple ladies out there, and he just got this look in his eye, and he was at the far end of the pen, and I thought, oh my gosh, what is he doing? He just took off towards us at a high rate of speed, and then just slid to a stop and was about 12 inches from this lady's face. And it was like, oh, I know you just did that out of ordinariness. Just stuff like that. He would pull stuff like that.
He's a showman.
Yeah. He was a character.
Yeah, he had high intelligence. Really smart horse.
Yeah, he was.
And he liked looking over his mare band. He could see everyone.
Yeah, he did.
Over his ladies.
Yeah, he did like that.
He had that hill where he stood on, and yeah, he was happy out there.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. So he lived with you to the very end,
mm-hmm.
and I know that he looked great. So talk about how he aged, and then that last bit of time that you had with him, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So Deb and I had talked about him, if he ever got to where he could get up, so we're going to let him suffer and try to, keep him alive, and have to pick him up with slings and stuff like that. So we decided whenever he gets where he can't get up, we're going to, put him down. And it was in August, and it was a real kind of a warm evening.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah. And anyways, he
well, I went out there.
Yeah, Debbie went out, and she come back in, and she told me, she said, he's down and, can't get up.
Just laying there, not flat, but he was laying there. And I said, well, first I went out there and seen him, and I thought I would just ignore it and pretend it'll go away, hope it'll go away. So I didn't tell Bill the first time I went out there, and I thought, because it's not him to lay down. In fact, you couldn't catch him laying down till he was about 20, he was in his late 20s before you'd even catch him laying down. Yeah. But anyway, he was laying down out there, and it was in the evening because we had been to our granddaughter's birthday party. And I thought, yeah, this is not right. He's laying down. He just kind of looked at me, and I thought, come on, you can get up. I talked to him a little bit, and he didn't get up. So I thought, I'm just going to walk off and come back later. So I did, and he was still laying down. And so then I went and told Bill. I said, he's not getting up. So we went out there, and
yeah, we called the vet, which is a good friend of ours, and it was time to decide. We talked it over. We said, yeah, we got me to do. It's time to put him down. So when I had called the vet, anyway, that was one of the most special times that I can remember with him, because he'd try to get up, and so I just laid there by him, and I'd take his mane and kind of hold him, keep him from getting up. And but we was there like probably an hour at least
waiting
before
for him.
Yeah.
But it was a Friday or Saturday, Friday the 13th. So our vet, he said, I'll be right there. So he went to the office and got what he needed to get and came, but we had to wait for him. So yeah, we just sat there and waited for him.
It was cool because we got to reflect a lot, you know. So, I mean, myself, and I know Debbie had a lot of time to do the same, but I just laid there and just thought about how much, you know, how much he meant to us, and then how much impact he had on our life, other people's lives, the horse industry. Um, just it was kind of like I think about that movie Lonesome Dove once in a while, and at the end they ask Captain Call about your vision. You had a big vision in your life, and I was thinking that same thing. I thought, you know, I had a lot of visions that went through my head laying there by that old horse for about that hour. That you know, different memories that a guy had from owning him and being involved with him, and it was really a special time.
Sat on the stud was not in our plan, you know, and because he had the eye, lost his eye, because Bill would have trained him and sold him for a prospect. Because he lost his eye, that's how he ended up being. So, what do you say? God answers on that. God, it's kind of I feel it was a blessing to us.
Yeah, God, I've made that comment about I don't know why God wanted us to have that horse, but I'm very thankful that he wanted us to have him, because it was definitely a blessing from God that horse come into our life because of all the good things that happened to us and even our friends and people that we didn't even know.
Yeah.
You know, breeding programs that started up because of him, and his daughters and his sons that went on and made such a huge impact with other people's programs. He had a wide variety of you know, like I said, breeding programs in the United States and even into Brazil and Italy and things like that. And you know, it was just he had, it was a God thing.
All the people that tell us how many memories they have and what he's done in their life.
And he brought a lot of happiness to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And made big financial gains for other people, you know, by investing in his genetics. There's been so many programs that his daughters have went into that helped make other young studs become producers, and vice versa. You know, his sons that have produced, you know, hugely. I mean, I don't know what the stats are on his sons his grandsons and granddaughters that have won, but it's from sure over 50 million. So, you know, that's that generational diversity of his genetics has went, you know, down. It goes down 4 or 5 generations almost now that you're seeing that bloodline still showing up and being successful and having, you know, helping other people's programs.
Another thing I think is amazing about him is there'll be a stud that they'll say he sired sires. You know, he's the sire of sires, but this horse, Guy, I feel he could sire sires and sired broodmares, because the broodmares are proving to be, you know, producers. But yet, look at all the sons that are out there that are being awesome sires, you know, even to this day even. So I feel like he's gone probably both ways.
Absolutely. You know, you go along there and you breed lots of mares, and then you finally can step back after there's a certain amount of them out there and start evaluating. But, you know, there were things, there's no way to really learn that except doing it, you know,
trial and error.
Breeding certain mares and then judging them colts as they grow older and they're able to compete. And so it takes a long time. I guess that's what I'm trying to say here is promoting a stallion and having him become successful is not a quick process. It just takes a long time to figure out them things that work and the things that don't work, and trying to learn from all of that.
But we were lucky enough to have the one-eyed stud to run the program.
He overcome so many obstacles in the breeding shed, you know, and he throwed such pretty colts and nobody wants to ride a homely horse or an ugly horse, you know. so he overcome there was lots of mares he was bred to that weren't very good looking, and they would still be he was so strong with his genetics that most of the time he'd still get a pretty darn good looking colt. And so he was such a strong sire of his traits that were dominant. He was that was one of the great things about him. Yeah, so strong in his traits.
That's some ugly mares, colts look.
Yeah, he was a strong sire. He would over rule the genetics of a mare, and even the disposition. Lots of mares that were real touchy or skittish or nervous type mares, you could breed them to him and they would be more level-headed and quieter and easy to train. And just like we talked about, the kids riding them and stuff like that. A lot of them a lot of them horses they rode were still pretty hot bred, but were very manageable and easy to train, and kids were able to ride them and win on them. And so, yeah, he was real strong in that stuff.
So he gave his rider confidence. He gave his mares confidence. He gave you confidence. He was just like such a strong force.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and I think that family, it was kind of, because his sister was the same way. So, like Bill said, I think that Lightning Bar, Laughing Boy, bloodlines, we really think that helped as far as the Purdy.
Well, he was line bred Lightning Bar, so it come from his dad and his mother. But because Doc's Jack Frost was a Lightning Bar bred horse, Laughing Boy, of course, was too. But yeah, I think that apparently them genetics were. I've studied some of them old horses, and Lightning Bar, as far as I'm concerned, I think was the best son of 3 Bars, because he produced Doc Bar, he produced some of the great show horses, and he produced some great race horses. And there's and we talk about versatility. There's very few. I don't think there's any other. I think 3 Bars was the greatest thing, one of the greatest things that ever happened to the quarter horse world myself. But I think Lightning Bar was his best son as far as versatility, and also Purdy and athletes. So he was a strong horse as far as the American Quarter Horse Association's what he did for the American Quarter Horse. Lightning Bar, and especially he didn't live very long, and he had a small number of colts, but he still had a huge impact on the breed.
We're gonna snatch that out and put that in Lightning Bar's order.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but the reason that we kind of focused on that is because when we were training before Guy came along, and we didn't have any money to buy a horse with anyway, we would just drool over those Laughing Boy mares when we'd see one. Oh, we wish we could buy one. We just loved to have one. And it took us a long time before we could afford them, and because of him, really. But it's like we always wanted one. So that was kind of like kids in a candy store, You finally get the candy, and it's like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah, when I was young, I'd loped racehorses at the racetrack in high school, and Frances Loiza, which is the lady that owned the mares, his mother, and she had some full sisters, and then Bozo's mother.
Mom.
Them mares were at the racetrack, and they were beautiful mares. And I'm just a kid from the country, and I don't know nothing about what a real good, pretty horse or good horse is. And anyway, them horses left an impact on what I wanted to have if I ever could have good horses. Them mares were what I would try to duplicate. And thankfully, later on in years, we was able to get some of that blood, and that's started our whole program was that them mares we thought so much of.
See, vision.
Yep. Yeah.
And it still carried you forward to this day.
Yeah.
Guided that by similar mares. And
and you develop an eye for a certain kind of a horse that you want to raise yourself, and so them were the kind, and so you just built on that. As you bred him to other mares, you tried to get that certain look and that certain quality all the time, and was able to get that consistently rather than just hit and miss. He was real strong on giving you them traits and that look that you wanted to have in your horses, because everybody's got a different idea of what they want, but we wanted a certain kind of horse, and he was the one that was allowed us to get that consistently. Well, when we in the year 2001, we went to John Scott's dispersion sale in Billings, and Carol Rose came to it also because that guy had some amazing mares, and we didn't have the finances that we'd like to have had when we went there, but we still going to try to go buy a couple mares or whatever, and so we went to that sale, and we'd pick out certain mares we liked, and when they'd go in to sell, well, we'd follow them up there to try to see if we could, have a chance of buying them. Dang, the whole bunch of them mares that we liked, Carol Rose liked them too, and she would
send her guy up there.
We didn't have near as good a pocketbook as Carol Rose had, so
About the fourth time he come back,
she'd blow us out of the water every time. Every time. She'd blow us out of the water, but I thought
this guy up there.
Well, I guess with the impact that had on me more than that being able to buy them is that she had to me, I felt like she had a lot of the same kind of eye that we had and the type of horse that we liked, she liked, and I thought to myself, that lady is an awful good horsewoman to see that quality in certain horses he's got that she wanted to put into her program, and so that meant a lot to see that and feel like we had a little bit of a similar taste in our horses.
When we were younger, I always thought, wow, this lady's got some business sense and knows how to handle her horse and stuff like that back then. And to meet her, it was even better than reading about her. Or another thing, we would go to the Heritage Place sale to buy. When we finally got enough money, we wanted to buy some decent mares for him to have in the broodmare band, and we'd get the Heritage Place catalog. Oh my gosh, we just pour over it and we'd write down.
It was just like a couple kids in the candy store.
Yeah. Write down what we liked and make the number and all this stuff. And we'd probably have 200 out of 1,000 or 900. And then we'd go there, and then nobody wanted to go with us because we spent 2 days pulling mares out, looking at mares. That's all we did. We didn't go down there for anything but that. And we'd pull everyone out, and then we go by pedigree in the catalog, and then we get there, we want certain confirmation. Like Bill said, we had certain confirmation we were looking for. So there was a lot of them. Out of the 200 and some, we might end up liking not 10, 15 of them.
Yeah.
That'd
make our
what we wanted.
Short list, yeah.
Yeah. But we start out, we'd have to buy some of the older ones that, because we didn't have the kind of money we needed to.
But it was really a fun time in our life to put that bunch of mares together and go there. We went there for years, like at least once a year, sometimes 2 times a year to them sales and buy, we'd buy anywhere from 1 to 4. I think we brought maybe 5 or 6.
Once I bought one for Chad
at one time. So, it was kind of like a shopping spree.
That was our vacation. That was our vacation. That was our vacation. That's what we did, and it was. Yeah,
and then just bringing them home and seeing how they crossed on Guy. It was just,
getting to meet all those new people, all those race people. That were like we talked about people we got to meet through him.
Some real
I went down there because they, getting mares for him, and we got to meet all the top race trainers and the top stallion
breeders.
It
was a great education. We learned a lot down there, and it was really good for our business. It did our business a lot of good.
So how's that make you feel when those horses are out there just killing?
We love it. We love it. Especially now we've got older and can't do it ourselves. We love watching them. That's the big thing about getting to go watch them. And we really enjoy when the kids do good too. I mean, we enjoy when the professionals do too, but seeing those kids is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, when you turn the national finals on and there's a couple, 2 or 3 of his horses between the barrel racing and the bulldogging or whatever, roping. I mean, it gives another degree of interest to watch them horses. You get excited to see them go all the time. And then like now Facebook, there's always something coming up on Facebook about one of his Colstre's grandsons or granddaughters or, that it's an ongoing. I mean, you look at our ads every week in the Barrel Racing Report, we record, some of the highlights every week. And they're just every week, there's just horses and horses and horses. And, watch Calgary on TV the other day. We'll watch them in Cheyenne here this week, and they'll be here in Deadwood and Rapid City, and I mean they're all over the world now, and they're in Brazil, and we don't even know a lot of the stuff that happens over there, but it's just really cool when and especially with like a lot of them we raised ourselves coming right off this ranch. I mean that's another degree of interest that is really cool when you raised them yourself and you own their mother and maybe probably started them as 2-year-olds and remember what they were like. And, that's the thing about him, when we trained horses for a living, we rode every bloodline there was. And some of them wasn't that much fun to ride. So what a blessing when we got to the point where his colts were worth enough money that we could just ride our own horses and be able to enjoy them kind of horses on a daily basis and a number of them. And that's been one of my biggest rewards besides the money that the horse brought in is, to get up and be able to go out and ride anywhere from, some years we'd have 30 head, but anywhere from 10 to 30 head of his like sons or daughters of that horse, and then be able to feel that greatness and that movement and that responsiveness and all them great things that you don't get with every horse that you ride. And there would be a consistency there that, it was fun. It was fun. It was like, you don't have to make me go out that door and go to work. I want to get out that door and ride them horses because I love it. Because there is a, when they move their feet a certain way or they respond a certain way, and you get to feel that, it's a cool thing. It's a really cool thing.
How gratifying.
Yeah, it is. It's just, you can't put a price on what that's worth to a person like me that's a trainer at heart and love to develop great horses. And then when you have great individuals to work with, it just makes your job not a job. It makes like it's fun. And then get paid real well on top of it.
Dang.
Yeah, when you just hate it,
Guilty.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
Awesome.
Oh,
we're just wrong.
I'm having fun.
We're having fun. Okay, so the question we always like to close with is how, when you look back over all the years, and I shouldn't say close because I know Doug has another one for you, but when you look back over all the years and find out you've got a Hall of Fame horse, can you believe it? I mean, tell us about how you feel about the fact that Frenchmans Guy, who was the cornerstone of your family, is being inducted into the American Quarter Horse Hall of Fame.
When Debbie called me, I think I was in Arizona, and she was up here when you apparently called her. I couldn't believe it. I thought, unbelievable. It's just that is an honor that you don't ever dream. You don't even dream about it, let alone expect it. It was amazing because we had never ever thought that you'd ever have a Hall of Fame horse, and then just to be involved involved with the other horses that are in the Hall of Fame is just a huge honor. It's more than you'd ever dream about. I mean, it's an honor that it can't hardly describe what it means to us. It's you think you have a great horse yourself, but when the other people that are in the industry acknowledge him to be that type of a horse, it's pretty overwhelming.
We knew how great he was, but to realize that he was, like Bill said, to be honored with some of the horses that are in the Hall of Fame now, it's just, I mean, you can't, I don't even know, you can't even compare. I mean, it's just amazing. Yeah, very honored.
What's your definition of horsepower? You've come up with an answer?
No.
Okay, come on.
My horse,
girl.
You remember running hard to them barrels. I mean, you got to remember that feeling that you get when you're going around going 90 and then all of a sudden you're turning. I mean,
that was what people used to say, make comments about his runs. Was the fastest he run was the first barrel. I mean, he would just run as fast and could shut it down and blind to the first barrel. That would be horsepower, and the confidence that you could feel underneath them when you go into the arena. It's just, there's so much confidence, and it's just, it makes you feel confident, and To me, that's horsepower. Be able to ride something like that.
Mm-hmm. Think about those young girls who are ready for that next step up horse, and they're not confident. And
Yes.
talk to their moms about that and
Yes.
explain what these horses bring to the table. I mean, that's got to be a deal closer right there.
Yeah.
Even like I said, I hadn't run barrels for 10 years. I didn't have much confidence in myself, but these horses gave me confidence, and that's, to me, that means a lot. And to give, even like we said, kids or something, to give them confidence to walk in that arena and feel like they can compete with whoever they're competing against. Yeah.
You may not have it yet, but you will when you get done with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that horse himself, if you go watch him and he's penning, the athletic moves he made was just unbelievable. He could slide and get up under himself so far, and then the next half a stride be going the other way as fast as he could. And then riding him, it was the feeling that horse had was, not every horse had the feeling that horse had. He had a feeling that was, first of all, super powerful, but also a smoothness in the way he did it. So them two things together made him different than a lot of horses. And then of course his willingness on top of that. But he had a feel about him that was unique, and it was like, it didn't take long from when we broke him to feel that and know that it was there. And like I told Debbie after I'd rode him just a little bit, I said, he ain't no normal horse. This sucker's special. I mean, he's something else. And that was evident. And you by being on him and feeling that stuff, you knew it. It was like, hey, this horse ain't normal. He's a freak. He's kind of a freak. And I know I don't mind using the word freak because I see that in athletes and other horses, and I think horses that excel to a super high level are kind of freaks. And to me, he was a freak. He wasn't a normal horse. He didn't ever stumble. He didn't ever have he always knew where his feet were. It didn't matter what kind of ground you were riding him in or how rough the country you were like up in our some of the land we have here. He never took a step that wasn't he could put his feet wherever he wanted, anytime he wanted to, anywhere, no matter how tough the situation was. He was really crazy strong.
Yeah. I've seen people call him that a lot on Facebook, but when he talks about where he puts his feet, I have another story. Excuse me. I was riding him in the winter, and you see in the hills we got around here. So coming out of our pens here, we go down a hill, and then I go out in the pasture and ride him. And it snowed, and there was a lot of snow, and it had drifted. And so I was going to go down this hill, and I thought, I just can't tell how deep this drift is. Going down this hill, I'll just start down and see it. I was riding him and take a couple steps, and it was just getting deeper and deeper. Pretty soon it was up to my feet. And I thought, I'm in trouble here. I don't know if I should keep going. If I go any further, we're going to get bogged down. But then again, I'm scared to turn around, because I'm afraid he's going to, not be able to get turned around and fall on me or something. So I sat there for quite a while. Finally, he just looked back at me and just turned around right in the same spots, and just walked back up the hill. It's like,
yeah, that's dangerous. That deep snow, you get in real deep snow, horse can fall down with you real easy.
I thought, what am I going to do here? And he just turned around on the same tracks he was in and went back up the hill.
Yeah.
You don't know, Mom.
Yeah. We're going to have to make a decision here. Somebody needs to make a decision.
It's been a journey that we're thankful to have been involved in, and to get to that level, to be in the Hall of Fame is, again, something you never ever think about. But to have a horse that finally did it, it's unbelievable.
Pretty validating of your life's work.
Yeah, just like I said, we like Debbie said earlier, we just kind of went along doing our deal, and you don't even think about that stuff. So,
what would your dad say?
Well, hope he'd be proud. And actually, my uncle, I got to give him a lot of credit. My dad passed away when I was fairly young. Okay. And so I went and lived with my aunt and uncle, and he was a horseman. And so I think they'd both be real proud, to see where guys went with our business and our horses. And they knew I loved horses, and my uncle taught me a lot of stuff about handling a horse when I was young that I still use today. And so, yeah, my family, I think they'd be very proud of me.
See, I told you it'd be good. Frenchman's Guy is a legend, but he's not the only legend out there. Many of you probably know of some other great horses and people who should be recognized for their contributions to the American quarter horse industry. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, to nominate a horse or person to the American Quarter Horse Hall of Fame, go to AQHA.com/nominate. But don't delay. Nominations for this year close April 1st. Thanks for joining us at Good Horses and Legends Remembered, and be sure to tune in next time as we continue honoring good horses.